Welcome to this episode of Leslie in Castelnaudary. Step inside my kitchen and I will give you a lesson in French coffee culture. And have a cup of coffee with me while you're at it. Hello, friends. It's your friend Leslie in Castelnaudary. And today on this episode, I'm going to give you a lesson in French social customs. If you want to have a happy social life, then you definitely need a coffee machine. A coffee machine is essential to your social relationships. You've probably seen one of the first episodes of Emily in Paris where her plumbing breaks and she needs help and she gets Gabrielle to get a plumber to help her. There's a scene in there where the relationship doesn't build with the plumber until she offers a cup of coffee. The guys are talking. That is actually very accurate. That is a very normal part of social life in France. This is not like America where you call a plumber or you call a service person and they come and it's very commercial. No, here it's very social. It's very personal. And who you build relationships with matters. And a part of that, when you have, for example, a plumber or a handyman or a service person come, and even a friend, you always offer a cup of coffee. Now, a cup of coffee can come in many sizes. Americans, as you can see by my gorgeous mug collection, we like huge cups of coffee. Well, in France, coffee is more of like a quick break. We call it a pause cafe. And it's about 10 to 15 minutes, and you talk with each other over a cup of coffee. And if you're a smoker, you also smoke as well. There are different sizes. Here we have the espresso size. And you can put it in and push the espresso button and you get an espresso. And that's about a 10 to 15 minute break if you're sipping on that. But usually people will just dunk it down and drink it. And then you have a little bit more formal cup of coffee. It's a little bit bigger than the little espresso, and you offer it with a saucer. And if you're like me and you want to do in the morning or your afternoon break with your chocolatine aux amandes, a little pastry, then you're going to be drinking with a bigger mug. And I always push the double, and I have a double cappuccino, as big as it could get. But that's how it usually works. And some people don't take any sugar at all. And if you do offer with sugar, it'll probably be a cube or two. For us, we only use brown sugar and we put a little spoon and we put that in our coffee. So this coffee maker is a Melita and it has kind of like the high-end version. And the reason why we bought this one wasn't because it was big and flashy. It was because it did cappuccinos, it did macchiatos, and it offered foamy milk. And I love just a regular cup of coffee, and I love that with like Coffee Mate, but they don't sell that here. They have milk. So you put this in a jar of milk, and you push the button, and it makes the coffee for you. And it is so gorgeous. You put your grounds in here. Of course, you want to buy the best grounds that you can find. And then you put your water. And water is super important when you're making coffee. You definitely want to have filtered water. That flavor of really high quality coffee, whether it's an espresso or a cappuccino or a macchiato or just a big regular cup, you definitely want to have that water filtered with high quality grounds. Yummy. So Pause Cafe in France is very, very important. It's not about going to a drive-through and walking around with your cup of coffee. It really is the psychological moment where you take a break. You really just reflect. We work in France, we work 35, 45, and some people who I know work 60 hours a week, but the Pause Cafe is really important. And I'll tell you why. This is what I learned when I did my internship in career development and coaching at AFPA, which is France's national trade school. One of the most important things is having a cup of coffee with your colleagues. And it serves several purposes. One, you're building relationship with your colleagues. You're having a moment to get to know them as people, what their personal projects are, what they're working on, where they came from, what are their goals. and who they are as human beings. When you go to work in France, it's not about stripping yourself of your humanity. It's about being who you really are and being a normal person. I know it's a strange concept for Americans, but it really is a social thing in France to have a cup of coffee and get to know your colleagues as people. The other thing is I find it very, very interesting is from a career perspective, it's a time to really work on things and talk about things with your colleagues. There might be office politics or there might be projects that need to be done, and you can take that moment to kind of get the insider. It's kind of like that diplomatic French vibe. You're really getting to know what's going on, the ins and outs of your work culture and your work projects. And it's a great time to coach each other. I found it very, very helpful to have a pause cafe, to have somebody give me advice and tips on the job and the work environment and the colleagues that we had. And it was just a really nice way for me to kind of get settled and get oriented. Coffee in France is a big deal. So if you go to France, have a cup of coffee, go to a cafe and just sit and enjoy your life. You'll see a lot of coffee shops, not coffee shops like Dutch Bros or Starbucks, which is very commercialized, but local coffee shops. You can read a free copy of the newspaper. You can scroll your phone if you want, but I really recommend taking some time with a friend, a loved one, or even just by yourself and reading a book, watching the people go by, absorbing and savoring life, which for Americans, we just rush through it. And I find that if you're going to follow me and if you're going to stay tuned on this show, Leslie and Castelnaudary, it really is about savoring your life. Don't rush through it. It goes by so, so quickly. So I hope you enjoy this quick, gorgeous little episode on coffee culture in France. I find it to be one of the most exciting parts of my day. It's a moment where I can sit with myself, have a delicious pastry that's handmade and fresh that made that day, watch something that I enjoy, scroll and talk to friends, or just sit and watch life pass by. It's really, really enjoyable. And I hope that from watching this episode, you enjoy your life and savor a little bit more. Because my goal for you going forward is just to find all the ways that you can take it easy and feel good about your life, because God knows you should, and you should feel good about yourself too. So thanks for joining me on this little episode of Leslie and Castelnaudary and this lesson in French coffee culture. Savor the day, savor your life, and live it to the fullest.